From explosive confessions to epic legal showdowns, gear up as we dive into the thrilling and nail-biting world of courtroom drama. Number 1. Jeremy Christian. On May 26, 2017, an incident shook everyone riding the Green Line Max headed toward Clackamas Town Center. It all began when 35-year-old Jeremy Christian boarded the train after a day of drinking sangria wine. Blinded by hate, he started hurling insults at two black teenage girls, one of which was a Muslim in hijab. A few men on the train confronted Jeremy and asked him to back off, but they never expected him to pull a knife from his pocket and attack them. Jeremy injured 3 men, Fletcher, Namkai Meche, and Ricky Best, and while one survived his wounds, the other 2 lost their lives that day. In a video captured by witnesses, you can see Christian exiting the train, screaming, A few witnesses followed him and even saw him washing the blood off his hands with soda. How do you think his trial ended? Christian was found guilty on 2 counts of murder and attempted murder. During the sentencing, one of the victims delivered an impactful speech. Christian was seen losing all control and spewing more hate, but before things could get any worse, he was escorted out of the courtroom. The judge sentenced him to 2 consecutive life terms with another 25 years for his multiple misconducts. Hold on to your seat because this courtroom drama is about to reach a whole new level of shock. Number 2. Michael Swanson. This is Michael Swanson, the 17-year-old who went on a killing spree, claiming the lives of 2 Iowa gas station attendees all within an hour. His first victim was 47-year-old Vicky Bowman. Swanson entered the gas station in Algona, Iowa, wearing a ski mask and holding a handgun. Upon entering, he approached Vicky Bowman and demanded cash and cigarettes. She didn't hesitate or try to defend herself, but accepted and complied with Swanson's wishes immediately. But in truth, Swanson wasn't there to rob the gas station. He had other intentions in mind, intentions that Vicky couldn't imagine. Swanson shot Vicky on the spot and proceeded to the next gas station in Humboldt, Iowa. There he met Sheila Myers, who became the second victim of his twisted mind. Swanson was arrested 60 miles away from the shooting site, and his later confessions proved his sole intention was to kill the women for an adrenaline rush. During his court proceeding, one of the victim's daughters gave a victim impact statement, and while everyone in the courtroom could see and feel her pain, Swanson remained emotionless. Swanson was seen smiling and laughing as the judge pronounced his sentence, showing no remorse for his actions. The judge said,
"Cold-blooded murder, young man. And your counsel wants us to believe that you lack the capacity, that you were insane. And I don't buy into that. You are dangerous, you are unpredictable, and there is no place for you in an open, law-abiding society. Prison for the rest of your life is the only alternative. And the court intends to follow through."
If you thought you'd seen it all, the next courtroom scene is so intense it will make the first 2 look ordinary. Number 3. Daniel Villegas. This is Daniel Villegas, whose false confession led to a 25-year-long prison nightmare. It was April 10, 1993, when 4 teenage boys were walking home from a house party. Suddenly a car pulled up slowly behind them, but quickly pulled away. The car then turned around and came right towards the boys, halting close enough to open fire. Armando Lazo, 17, and Bobby England, 18, lost their lives to the brutal shooting, but 2 boys got away just in time. The Good Friday shooting, as it was called, set off a media and law enforcement frenzy. A detective with the El Paso Police Department put some people close to Villegas through intense and manipulative interrogations, including Villegas' friends and cousins. The boys were no match for the forceful interrogation techniques, and many gave statements implicating Villegas. Villegas was finally brought in the middle of the night and subjected to a 5-hour-long interrogation in which he was threatened with beatings, sexual assault, and the death penalty. Helpless, Villegas signed the confession typed by the detectives, thinking that he would retract his statements as soon as he got out of the room. But he was out of luck and charged with capital murder. What do you think happened in court, since there was no actual evidence to tie Villegas to the shootings? The lack of substantial evidence didn't save him from a guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to life in prison. 18 years later, the verdict was thrown out, and Villegas remained out on bond. He married and started a family, but the verdict of the third trial changed his life forever. This was the moment of truth for Villegas, and as the judge gave his verdict, everyone in the courtroom waited with bated breath, hoping that justice would prevail this time. His third trial resulted in a full acquittal, and for the first time in 25 years, Villegas was a free man. He currently works as a construction foreman in El Paso. Up next, a murderer who has successfully evaded conviction with his erratic courtroom behavior. Number 4. Bryce Rhodes. This is Bryce Rhodes, a Louisville man awaiting trial for almost 7 years on 3 murder charges. Bryce Rhodes went on a killing spree when he shot an innocent man, mistaking him for someone else. At the time of the murder, 2 brothers, a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, were in the car. Rhodes feared they might identify him as a murderer and decided to end their lives too. A few weeks after the first murder, Rhodes cornered and killed the brothers, dumping their bodies in the Shawnee neighboring and setting them ablaze. Unfortunately, his trial has been going on with no conviction yet. Can you guess why? His bizarre and unexpected behavior has made it difficult for justice to find its course. He has been seen blowing kisses on people in the courtroom, especially the family of the victims. His nonchalant hand gestures are downright demeaning and upsetting. Once the judge caught him smiling during the court proceeding, and when he inquired Bryce why he was grinning, he simply replied,
I don't know why you're smiling.
Because I can.
Well,
Because I can. It's not a crime to smile.
it's not a crime to
Continue
smile,
what you were saying.
but it doesn't help you, all right, to irritate people.
All right.
And you have a lot at stake in this case.
It's not a crime to smile, is it?
I didn't say you were committing a
Okay
crime.
then.
I'm saying you're
Continue
not
what you were
helping
saying.
yourself.
Continue what you were saying.
He was once forced to wear a spit mask because he spit on his attorney. In March 2020, Bryce accused the judge overseeing his case of having a sexual relationship with the prosecutor and suggested that the judge was a secret Ku Klux Klan member. His irrational behavior combined with his dismissal of several of his lawyers, Bryce's trial has extended much longer than anyone expected. However, now that he has been declared competent for trial, he will be back in court and get what's coming for him. Get ready to witness justice in its most dramatic form as we unveil one of the most heart-wrenching moments in courtroom history. Number 5. Susan Mellon. Meet Susan Mellon, a mother wrongly convicted for a crime she never committed. On August 25, 1997, Susan brought her 9-year-old daughter to McDonald's for a happy meal. She was thrown to the ground in the parking lot and apprehended for the murder of her ex-boyfriend, Rick Daly. As the detectives drove her away, Susan called to her daughter from the back seat saying, "Don't worry, I'll be back for dinner." But Susan didn't know that she would not be able to see her daughter for 7 years, and when she finally will, it will be in a prison visiting room. Susan was 42 years old when she was sentenced to life in prison without parole, based on a single untruthful testimony. Her conviction resulted from an informant who claimed Susan had confessed to the murder in confidence. She remained an inmate for 17 years, until the informant was proved to be a pathological liar and therefore an unreliable witness. Can you imagine the gravity of the justice system's failure in the case of Susan Mellon? This is the moment of truth for Susan, something she has been waiting for 17 agonizing years behind bars. Susan was exonerated, and the judge accepted that the justice system had failed her. He insisted that Susan be allowed to walk free from the courthouse without waiting for prison paperwork. The state of California awarded her $597,200 in compensation for her wrongful conviction, and the Los Angeles City Council agreed to pay her $12 million. Now, free of all charges, Susan took her daughter to McDonald's for that long-awaited Happy Meal. Coming up next is extraordinary footage of 2 men blowing up their court proceeding in the most stupid and unexpected way. Number 6. Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard. This is Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard, and they're in Chehalis, Washington. Both can be seen in prison uniforms and handcuffs, awaiting their turn on the 3rd floor of the Lewis County Courthouse. Jacobson is here on charges of reckless driving and driving with a suspended license, while Howard is charged with 2nd-degree burglary, 1st-degree trafficking, and stolen property, 3rd-degree driving with a suspended license, and 2 warrants for failure to appear in court. As you can see in the footage, there are no deputies in the room, and that's why Jacobson and Howard thought they could get away with their plan. Howard started to run away from the room, closely followed by Jacobson, and while one of the bystanders thought of chasing them, Judge R.W. Buzzard quickly peeled off his robe and ran after them. The 2 made it out of the courtroom, but were still handcuffed and wearing sandals. The duo went straight for the stairwell with Judge Buzzard at their heels. Jacobson quickly looked around before darting out of the door, but before Howard could step outside, Judge Buzzard grabbed him, ruining his chances of an escape. Jacobson was also picked up a few blocks away from the courthouse. Trying to run away was a big mistake, as they were both charged with second-degree escape. According to reports, Jacobson was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day, while Howard was given over 3 years in prison. The next convict's outrageously callous behavior almost jeopardized his plea deal. Number 7. Dante Wright. Meet Dante Wright, a 17-year-old who shot and killed a Pioneer High School student in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Wright and 2 others attacked the 18-year-old student, attempting to rob him. The young man tried to fight the assailants, but to no avail, and was shot and left to die on the street. Wright was supposed to have a pre-trial hearing, but he confessed to the murder for a plea deal. This is the scene from his courtroom hearing, where the victim's family took the stand to deliver a victim impact statement. The victim's mother was overcome with grief and unable to say anything, but the most shocking reaction, who continued to smirk while the woman read the impact statement. He casually said,
"I just want to tell y'all, I'll be home soon. R.I.P. Keon, I love my family."
Wright's unbelievable and unsympathetic behavior triggered the judge, and he threatened to throw out the plea deal.
Watching you sit there, smile, and laugh, and shake your head like this was no big deal, I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
If you thought these courtroom scenes were bizarre, the moments captured in the next video would leave you speechless. Brace yourself for another roller coaster of shocking behavior.